Howdy y'all. Let's look at section 1.4. We're going to skip 1.3, and that's because there are only really a couple things that you need to know in that lesson, and it's much better to just review those ideas right before the EOC than to teach it now and then forget it and then do it again later. So distributive property. P-R-T-Y. The distributive property and combining like terms. Combining like terms. Okay, so these two ideas will go together for us here. Distributive property, let's look at an example. For the distributive property, you need something outside the parentheses and then an expression on the inside of the parentheses. And what we do is they say distribute, you're going to multiply what's on the outside by both of them on the inside. This is actually really important because I have x plus 2 here. I can't do anything with this. Order of operations says I have to add these together first, and I can't. I can't add x and 2 together. I don't know what x is. So being able to do this is pretty important. So 3 times x, that's when you take a number times a variable, you just write them out. That's pretty straightforward. And then 3 times 2 gives me 6. So that becomes 3x plus 6. As long as the numbers are fairly small and they're not weird like negatives or fractions or decimals. These are really straightforward. As we put in the other stuff, it can get a little trickier though, but this idea is exactly the same. Whatever's on the outside will affect everything on the inside. Let's look at another one. Negative 3 plus y. And when you have a negative on the outside, you have to think of it as a negative 1 as you're multiplying through. So I'm going to do the same thing. So this is a negative 1 times 3, that's negative 3. And negative 1 times y, and again that'll just change that to a negative y. And one thing that you can say here is that, well, when there's a negative on the outside, just change the signs on the inside. So the positive becomes negative, and if there was a negative, it becomes positive. This is basically saying just flip the signs of everything on the inside, and that will get you the answer. Let's do one more where I'll just show you and then I'll give you a couple to try. So let me show you this one. Negative 2 times 4 minus k, and it don't have to be 2 terms, it can be another term, plus g. Okay? And there's nothing in here that I can do with any of these. They won't combine together. They're all different. So let's multiply through this negative 2. That rhymed. Let me use a different color here. You don't have to draw these arrows, but it's just a nice little visual for me. So negative 2 times 4. Well, 2 times 4 is 8, and a negative times a positive is negative. If the signs are different, it will come out negative. Negative 2 times negative k, well, that's going to be 2k. And a negative times a negative is going to be positive. Finally, at the end, negative 2 times g. That's a negative times a positive is negative, and 2 times g is 2g. And I should have used those colors like that the whole time. I'll do that in the future. Okay, so that is our examples of the distributive property. Let me give you a couple to try. Say try it. Let me put a couple here. 7 times 4 plus h, and something a little more fun. Negative 2 times negative 5 plus x plus y. Go ahead and try those two out for me.